Hello and welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. We're going live just a few minutes early, so if you miss any of this, you can watch it back later on the video on the Doctor Squee Show page, and this will be available on audio at drsquee.com later. So please do check us out there, and all the videos with our guests. And if you're listening to this, you might be, or watching this, you might be a music fan, and we've had an interview in the past with Jill Sabule, but please check out our back catalogue. Now, tonight, I've got a very special guest. My guest tonight is the keyboard player, songwriter, and sometimes singer and accordion player in the Barenaked Ladies. He's also had 8 solo albums, the latest being Common Sense, all of which are available to stream or buy now. He's worked with Lou Reed, Tom Jones, The Persuasions, to name just a few. All this, and he's had #1 hits. He's sung with a Spaceman and entered the Canadian Hall of Fame. Please welcome to the show, Kevin Hearn. How are you doing tonight, Kevin?
Hi, Dr. Squee. I'm doing okay.
And you were saying that you weren't sure if you had enough to talk about for an hour, like just those things alone, and that's just half of it.
Well, I'm not the most chatty fellow usually, but I thank you for inviting me on your show. Most people say, you're in the Barenaked Ladies? And I say, yeah, I'm kind of the quiet guy that doesn't talk a lot.
Well, I think you may be too busy to talk with, like, looking through the credits of everything you've done. I don't know how you squeeze it all into a day, sir.
Yeah, I keep pretty busy. How do I address you? Dr. Squee or just
Squee?
Just Squee? Okay.
Yeah, it's an old nickname. Yeah, for very silly reasons.
Okay.
I started using it on the podcast because when I first started podcasting with my previous show, I was working as a counselor. So it was just a way of keeping my name off what I was doing so I couldn't be Googled by any clients, and it just kind of stuck.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so to talk about you though, so how are you doing with all this lockdown business?
It's been challenging, but I'm fortunate that our band has done well, and I've been able to remain comfortable, and I'm really grateful for that. Obviously, our industry has just more or less been shut down as far as the live performances. So that's been really a change in my life. I'm so used to that energy, the hustle and bustle, the traveling. And on one hand, I really miss it. And on the other hand, it's given me a chance to really sort of be calm and get into a routine and try and learn some things I've been wanting to for a long time, and spend more time with my daughter.
Excellent. And yeah, how is is it weird for someone who travels so much to just be still for so long? And to I mean, obviously you sound like you're a very involved family man from everything I've read.
Yeah, I find it strange not to be jumping on a plane or on a tour bus. And I've never spent this amount of time consecutively with my daughter without having to leave. So that's been really a silver lining. It's really been precious time.
That sounds wonderful.
And also in January and February, we, Barenaked Ladies got together and started recording a new record. And we took a small break beginning of March. And then, all this happened in Canada anyways. And so now I've been putting finishing touches on the record as we start to go into mixing mode. And that's been nice too, to have a creative outlet and sort of a creative routine.
And is there anything you can tell us about the album at this stage?
I think it's really good. There's, a lot of really good, strong songs. We're working with a new producer. Well, we wanted to sort of capture the band more of a live performance, more organic. So we went to Ed's cottage and recorded, I think, 14 songs. And then when we picked up again after the break, we actually went into a recording studio, and I'm sort of adding things to the songs. And so it's a mix. There's a few songs that are quite stripped back and organic, and some songs have the bells and whistles on it,
Oh, excellent. I mean, it seems that you as a band are very capable of doing both.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to do both and sort of keep that balance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to basically do a bit of a whistle-stop tour of your career, sir, if I might.
Okay.
Okay, so if we can take it back, you were born in Grimsby, Ontario, which I was actually quite pleased to hear, because when I saw an album, one of your tracks, Grimsby, I was wondering why you were writing about quite a miserable town in the UK. But and
Is there a town called Grimsby in the UK?
I would imagine it's probably where your Grimsby's name from, because usually Canadian name places and American, which
Right.
share a name with the UK, are usually based on our places. I hope your Grimsby was a little less grim.
Yeah, born there 1969. I wasn't there long, but that's where I was born. I was going to call the song "Going Back to Grimsby," but I just shortened it to Grimsby.
Well, by the way, any UK Grimsonians who are listening, I do apologise, of course. I'm only joking.
Sorry. You don't want to offend the Grimsonians.
No, we don't indeed. That you don't want to offend Northerners in the UK is what I've discovered.
I'll take your word for that.
So you learned piano when you were young, and you started your record collection off. Can you tell us about kind of getting into music and maybe some of your earlier music collection?
There were 6 kids in my family, and everyone was into their own music. There was a lot of music in the house. I remember my sister Mary Pat had Bay City Rollers posters all over her room. My brother Chris, he loved the group Kiss, and him and his friends would put on all the makeup, and they'd sort of do air guitar rock concerts, lip syncing to Kiss, playing on tennis rackets and hockey sticks. And I found that all very fascinating. My mom, she loved Andy Williams, and I remember I would latch on to certain songs like Born Free by Andy Williams, Theme from Mahogany by Diana Ross, The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, and the big ones for me were, of course, the Beach Boys, songs like God Only Knows, and the Beatles. My brother had the Beatles Blue record, and I just fell in love with it. Obviously, songs for a young kid, I think I was about 5, like Octopus's Garden, Magical Mystery Tour. They just drew me in, and I was like, what is this magical thing? What is this magical place? I want to go there. I want to live there. And I asked my mother to buy me a record, and my first record was Magical Mystery Tour.
Oh, wonderful. I think there's something really great about growing up with older siblings, where you can just go through their record collection and so then branch off from there into your own music.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's quite a connection in my life to my musical hero, Lou Reed, and my older sister, Mary Pat, and her record collection, but we can get there later if you want.
Sure, wherever you want to go, sir.
Well, when I was 9 or 10, I was across the street playing on the front lawn with my friend Billy, and he had a radio, and Walk on the Wild Side came on the radio, Lou Reed song, and just knocked my socks off. I'd never heard anything like it. Of course, I went to my sister. I said, have you ever heard of this guy, Lou Reed? And she had the Transformer record, and she was the cool one. She had a Lou Reed record. And so had she not had it, I don't know, would I've, forgotten about it, but I still have her copy of the record in my collection.
There's something just so wonderful about Lou Reed. He's one of those artists who, when you first hear them, especially when you're young, and like you get there's something slightly naughty about it, as well as being kind of so fantastic as music that is just great to discover when you're younger.
Yeah, you a Lou Reed fan?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've got the deepest bench knowledge, but yeah, I love his stuff.
Yeah, well, that record was had quite a sound. It was produced by David Bowie and Mick Ronson, and it has some of his classics on it, like Walk on the Wild Side, Satellite of Love, Perfect Day. It's quite a good starting point if for anyone out there who wants to check them out.
Now, David Bowie and Queen are sort of like some of my favorites.
Ah, so you must like Under Pressure.
Oh yeah. Bizarrely enough, my guinea pigs are named Bowie and Mercury. It's not a coincidence.
That's cool.
So in 1988, you joined Look People. Was that your first band?
I had a band in high school called the Glacials, and me and my friends, basically, we didn't go out on the weekends. We would go to my friends Anthony and Richard Brown's house. We'd go in their basement. They had a 4-track, and they had a whole bunch of cool old synthesizers, and we would make strange music to cassette. And that was, I always loved being in bands. That was my first band where I thought we were doing something really interesting. And that sort of led me into this group called the Look People, who I joined when I was in my last year of high school. And they were all older than me. They were, 10 years older than me, but they knew I could play and they needed a keyboardist. And the music was, the arrangements, it was like Frank Zappa with lyrics by Dr. Seuss, really intense arrangements. We rehearsed all the time, and there'd be stupid things like, in this verse, we're going to do this shot 2 times, and then in the next verse, we're going to do it 7 times. And it, just didn't make any sense. But that's the kind of, we had songs like Lovely Samba Chicken, Men Who Chop Trees, Trucker Butt. It was pretty fun.
You see, as experimental as that sounds and a bit weird and out there, it sounds like great preparation for the Barenaked Ladies, to be honest with you.
It was, yeah. We had quite a reputation in Toronto. Our live shows were pretty unhinged and verged on performance art. Our guitarist was 6'7", I believe, Longo High. Our drummer, Great Bob Scott, who I still play with in Finbuckle, was quite, he was like the Tasmanian devil on drums. And we would dress up, and it was a lot of fun. And so people in the Toronto music community, including the guys from the Barenaked Ladies, were aware of the band and knew me from that band. Yeah,
and it was Tyler who originally brought you into the Barenaked Ladies, I believe. And did you know him just from him coming to the shows, or?
Back then, I would run into Tyler at live shows. There's so much live music in Toronto, or there was back then, and I knew Tyler enough to say hi and how you doing. And there's a iconic bar in Toronto at Spadina and Queen called the Horseshoe Tavern. And I forget who I was there to see, but I ran into Tyler. And he said, "Kevin, it's interesting that I ran into you because we were talking about you today." And at this point, Tyler's band, the Barenaked Ladies, was like the biggest thing in Canada. They were just exploding. And so I was like, "Oh, why? Why were you talking about me?" And he said, "Well, Jim's brother, Andy, who was the keyboardist, is leaving the band. And your name came up as a good possible replacement. So we're hoping you would do a 2-month tour with us to see how it goes, And
right.
I think there's sort of a legendary guy in the Toronto music scene who passed away last year. His name was Dave Bookman, and I learned in years later that he was the fellow who suggested to Tyler that they asked me. So thank you, Dave. So I didn't hear from Tyler for months after that. That was it. So I was like, okay, that was interesting. And then I got a phone call and like, "Yeah, we're leaving in 2 weeks. Are you ready to go?" And that was that. I went to meet them at the recording studio in Toronto, and I'm trying to remember the name of the studio, but I'm having a mind blank. But they were putting finishing touches on their Born on a Pirate Ship record.
Yeah.
And they said, we didn't want to go through a whole audition process with different people. We're really hoping that you would do it, which, you know, how nice is that? So
yeah,
I said yes. And at the time I was still kind of working day jobs, making ends meet, and trying to make my way into the music industry. You know, I've been playing with good bands, and I was doing a soundtrack gig at the time. So I was doing all right, but this was like the first time I could sort of not worry about doing a day job and do music full time. So it was a very, very exciting break for me. And I'm ever grateful to the guys for that.
Yeah, and it seems like one thing which you did on those early days when you just joined. So they were putting finishing touches to Born on a Pirate Ship, and you appeared in videos for music you hadn't played on. I always find that must be such a weird experience for people.
It was strange. I don't remember if we really talked about it, that it was strange. They needed to make videos for those songs. I think it was The Old Apartment and Shoebox.
Yeah.
And I think they were just we just connected, and it just felt right. And I think they really wanted to embrace me as a member of the band and sort of not make me feel discluded. And so, yeah, I was just on board for those things. And I think The Old Apartment video was really cool. It was on a rooftop, and Jason Priestley directed it. And I'd been playing that song in the live show on electric guitar. And so I think they just felt like, yeah, he's playing this tune with us. We're doing a video for it. He may as well be in the video.
And for you, how was it? Like, I mean, it's always probably, I would imagine, intimidating to enter into any band, but especially one which was so established, had kind of quite a few hits already. How were those early days kind of getting to know the band?
I remember they were rehearsing sort of in the suburbs of Toronto, and I remember they were very nice to me. The sound was great. There was a crew that was really professional, and it was so cool to play and have it sound great. You know, we weren't in some dingy rehearsal space by the hour. And I was most worried about Jim, because I was replacing his brother, you know, Andy. But Jim was the nicest to me. And, well, I shouldn't say that. They were all nice to me. But Jim was very nice and gracious and made me feel really comfortable. And, you know, our sense of humor is all just clicked.
Oh, that's lovely. And you went, so you went straight on tour. And is it true that you learned all their back catalog in a matter of weeks?
Yeah. Well, as I said, Tyler said, you know, we're going on tour. We're leaving in like 2 weeks. And I didn't have any of the records. I'd seen them live once. And again, my sister had their record. She had a cassette of Gordon.
So your sister's music collection helping you still?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think I got together with Ed once just to sort of run through stuff. And then we did rehearsals proper. And then after the rehearsals, I went to break down my gear. And our sound man, Robin, said, "Kevin, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm packing up." He goes, "No, you don't pack up your gear anymore. We do that." That's what the crew does. I was like, oh, okay. So that's how new that environment was for me. I'd been, what do you say, slugging it out or slogging it out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
In bands, independent bands, and lugging all my gear around to clubs and packing up, and you know, so there was kind of a new world for me, a new level.
Yeah, it must have been amazing. And just to go straight out on tour, I mean, did you, with such a steep learning curve on all the songs, did you just feel confident with them? Are you someone who kind of like can learn songs very quickly like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable as a musician, and the songs, I didn't find them difficult. No, I really enjoyed it, and I was excited. I think, other than the Look people, I'd also worked with a group called Corky and the Juice Pigs, and they play a big part in the story of the Barenaked Ladies, because the Juice Pigs invited Steve and Ed to open for them on their Canadian tour when Steve and Ed were just a duo. And the Juice Pig members improvise an awful lot in their show. It's they're a musical comedy group, and Ed and Steve really adopted that format in their live performance. And I grew up with my cousin Harland Williams, who's a comedian.
Yeah.
And the Look people had comedic elements too, of course. So I feel I tuned into that part of the Barenaked Ladies too. And when they went off on a tangent improvising, I could zig and zag with them, or I could even take the lead with the music and get a song going if they started talking about something funny.
Well, yeah, I would have thought Harland Williams wouldn't be a bad one to teach you an anarchic sense of humor.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Harland.
And just in the midst of all this, or just after you recorded your first solo album, Mothball Mint?
Mothball Mint, yeah.
How was it going into the studio with just your own work, and after such an intense experience with a band?
I'd always wanted to do it. Jim Cregan encouraged me to do it, and he actually plays on it as well. I didn't really know what I was doing, other than I knew I wanted to try it, and it was so much fun. It's interesting listening back to it now. Some of it I go, oh boy, I can't believe I released this. But there's some other stuff where I'm like, wow, that's really interesting and fun. I remember Steve Page's father listened to it and he said, I really like your record, Kevin, but I think it's one of the most unreasonable records I've ever heard.
That's a lovely way of describing it.
Yeah, unreasonable. So Mothball Mint, yeah, and Harland did the photos for the cover. He was a mentor to me as well and encouraged me to do it. So I guess that's the only way you can really learn, is by doing, and so working in the band gave me the opportunity to afford to be able to do that in the studio with good musicians, and Michael Phillip Voyevoda producing. And something Harland taught me was put what you earn back into the machine, back into the creative machine. Invest in yourself that way, and grow and learn and keep expanding your ability to do your craft.
There certainly seems to be with your albums. I actually listened to them all back in preparation for this, and something which I really noticed was that each album has a kind of feel to it, like it's all part of a piece. Is that something you purposefully do?
I think they're all a snapshot in time, and I kind of see them as little paintings, that should hang together.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very nice kind of feel to them all, but they all feel like something different. I think a snapshot in time is probably the answer to that. But after you'd toured with Rock Spectacle, you then went into the studio to record Stunt. Now, that I think it's kind of it's hard to argue that isn't one of Barenaked Ladies' most successful albums. It kind of broke a lot of records the other ones hadn't. Did it feel special when you were going into the studio with that one?
Well, it did, in the sense that for me personally, it was the first studio recording with the band. So I was excited to do that. There was a lot of momentum at that point, a lot of excitement about the band, and a lot of excitement for that record. We had a lot of support from our record company at the time, and a lot of support from radio at the time. And so it was, opportunity was knocking. We'd spent so much time building our audience down in the USA, and it really had paid off. And so now it was just a matter of making a great record, going that next step.
I mean, I love the craziness of some of the earlier albums, but it felt like almost everything the band had learned to date, with a kind of new kind of like edge to it somehow. I don't know how to describe it else, but that was the first album which got me into the Barenaked Ladies.
That's cool. Well, I think of 1 Week and how that song, more than any song before it, captured what the band was like live.
Yeah.
You know, because we do go into these improv songs where Ed especially does freestyle rapping, sort of singing. Right. And that's how he wrote 1 Week. It was kind of the first time we crossed that into our studio record. And as soon as I heard that song, I was like, wow, that is a special, that could be a hit, that song. And it was also exciting because we were working with cool producers like Susan Rogers and David Leonard, and we were working down in Texas, in a studio that belonged to Willie Nelson. And there was a back room where they had a pool table and all these old master tapes of records that had been recorded there. And they had, so you could see like Talking Heads, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Willie Nelson. So there was a lot of energy in the space. But on the other hand, there's 1 Week, which is the first song, and then there's When You Dream, which is the last song, which is a lullaby that Steve wrote for his recently born son, Isaac. And it's just a beautiful song. And whereas on past records, the band was very organic and acoustic, I think I wanted to bring to the table some more electronics and experimental ideas. So we're getting these little music boxes and sampling them and creating kind of a dreamscape for that song. And so I think as a band, we were trying new things and still pushing the sound a little further than it had been on all of the previous records, which was really exciting.
Yeah, I forget the exact quote, but I was reading that Tyler said that you changed the band's sound forever and it still resonates to this day.
That's very nice.
Yeah, I thought you wouldn't have anything for a compliment. I get the feeling you don't like compliments too much.
No, they make me a little, you know, it's very nice. That's very nice of him to say. And, you know, I did bring those elements to the band that they weren't really using before. So I think that's kind of what makes that record special in a way, is in the context of me being a member. It's like the first sort of artistic statement. Yeah.
I actually caught you live to the Barenaked Ladies live twice here in Southampton. Just made me think of the rap which Ed does at the beginning of the shows, where he incorporates the town and everything that he's seen. It's amazing when he does those.
He's very talented at that. It's quite a thing, quite a card to play.
Do you remember like let's take my town here, Southampton, for example. Do you remember places you go to? Like, do you remember a lot about Southampton, for instance, or does it kind of blur just traveling around the world?
It's a little bit of a blur. I know when we tour in, my memory is, you know, not the best for places. I know when I go there, I'll go, oh yeah, this place, and I'll have my route that I do every time, and I'll. And I know Boothby and I walked around there. So,
Boothby Graffo, who supports you when you're touring the UK.
Is he what?
I did Boothby Graffo. Oh, sorry, I was editorializing a little bit. Boothby Graffo, who tours with you across the UK, for anyone watching who's not familiar.
He's an old friend of mine. Before I played with the Barenaked Ladies, I did 1 year at the. What's the big festival in Edinburgh? The comedy festival.
Oh, Edinburgh Fringe.
Edinburgh Fringe. And I did that with Corky and the Juice Pigs. And I met Boothby there. And again, he's just another guy that was a perfect fit to tour with us. And we all get along famously. So
one of the times when I went to see you, I took my son, it was his first gig. And not only was he absolutely in love with you guys, but he thought Boothby's Hartlepool song, which sings about hanging a little monkey,
Yeah.
he was singing that for days afterwards.
Oh man. Yeah, he's a great songwriter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty deep song. That's the thing about his songs. They're fun and funny, but there's often some deeper meaning in them, and I think that's the case with that one. You should ask him about it.
Oh yeah, I will. But the other thing which I want to get into, so at the time, you're just riding high on that album, and you're recording the video to 1 week when you got diagnosis with leukemia.
Yeah.
How do you just, like, I can't imagine the input of all those things of the success of the album, of recording a video, and then, I mean, obviously there is no time when a diagnosis of leukemia is going to be easy, but on top of all that, it must have been just such a mess with your mind. I was trying to clean that up on the fly.
Well, yeah, it was, I was suddenly dealing with my mortality, and I was in Los Angeles, and we shot a video for 1 week, and there's real excitement that the record was coming out. I had to leave the video shoot. I was already starting chemo, and basically packed a suitcase and checked into the hospital, not knowing if I would leave. So it was very difficult, yes.
Yeah, and when you're in there, you record your next album, which is, sorry, I've lost the note, H-Wing, sorry, of course.
Well, I wrote it in there, and then I recorded it when I was out and feeling well enough to record, yeah.
And there's not many albums which I listen to where I get that kind of gamut of everything that someone's feeling. And it's just like, it's an amazing work, really. If anyone hasn't checked it out, please do. Just that feeling of kind of like despair in some moments, and like, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this. And then in other moments, it seems like you're trying to find hope in it all.
Well, those are the things you need to hang on to going through a health crisis like that. Hope and humor and positivity. But I think at the time I was thinking, I've got to write all this down, because I may forget it after, and I may want to. So, and Mothball Mint was very innocent kind of record. I was just having fun and trying to write songs. But this, I was kind of thrown into the deep end of a life and death experience, and really felt I needed to express it and work through it. And it really deepened my ability, I think, to write.
And as if times weren't strange enough at that period, then Lou Reed reaches out to you when you're in hospital.
Yeah, that was, I was actually at home for a few days and very weak, like I could not even pick up a phone. And my goal every day at the time was to get up and down the stairs once. And then one day I got an email from Lou Reed, who's my hero, and it said, "Kevin, it's Lou. I hear you're not doing too good. I hope you get better soon and get back to your music." And I was so happy and excited about that. That's the first day I had the strength to go down the stairs, out the door, and around the block once. And on that walk, I ran into my old friend Chris Gartner from the Look People. And we talked, and I told him I'd been writing songs while in the hospital, and he asked if he could come over and hear them. So he came over to my house, and he said, "Why don't we go into a recording studio whenever you feel strong enough, and we'll start recording these songs." So we did. He introduced me to a fellow named Jeremy Darby, who is an English man, and he has a great recording studio in Toronto here called Canterbury Sound. And he was an interesting guy. He used to be on the road a lot with bands like U2 when they were just starting. He would ride the trains with them and help haul their gear. He was a sound man for Talking Heads. I think he was at Live Aid as a crew guy. and he was Lou Reed's sound man for a long time. And so there's another Lou Reed connection, and he sent the record to Lou that we made called H-Wing. And Lou called me and said, Kevin, you've done something, you've made a beautiful record, and you've done something important because you've gone somewhere where most people don't come back from, and you've come back to report about it. And so again, that Lou and I started becoming friends at that point, and he would start coming to solo shows that I would play in the New York area, along with his band, Fernando Saunders and Mike Rathke.
And it sounds like you also went back on the road fairly quickly, and it was a struggle with your health. Like you collapsed on tour after that?
Yeah, they encouraged me to try to feel like myself. Don't become a full-time patient. Try to get back to your life. That was an incentive. But what a life, a touring life is difficult for a fit person, let alone a bad, skinny guy who's anyway. So, yeah, there were ups and downs, but yeah, I had some near-death experiences on the road, and but in the end, I got better, and I thank the guys, because they could have just sort of said, you know what, this is too much, and just get better, and they could have kind of moved on, but they really said, Kevin, just do what you got to do to get better. Come back and play with us whenever you can. The door's open. We're with you on this all the way. So I'm ever grateful to those guys for that, as people and as professionals, co-workers.
Yeah, and so you got to know Lou, and you ended up being his band leader in the later years of his life.
Yes, we kept in touch, and at the Toronto International Film Festival in I forget what year it was, but they were premiering Lou's movie Berlin, the live performance that he did with Julian Schnabel. And Lou invited Jeremy Darby and I. And afterwards, Lou invited us to the after show get together. And I was surprised. He came and sat right beside me. And his guitarist, Mike Rathke, I guess his nickname was The Rat. So he said, Kevin, The Rat says you're a really good musician and that you and I should play together. So next time you come to New York, why don't we see if we can play together? And then he gave me his phone number, and he said it so fast, I had to say, could you repeat that? And then he got mad and repeated it, but he was mad. And then he left, and I kind of jumped in the air on my way home, and couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sort of get past that kind of fan part of you to to work with him on a professional level, and also to sort of feel like you can experiment with stuff with someone who is so established?
I think it was important for me not to be a crazy fan with him.
Yeah.
I know from my limited experience as someone in the public eye, if someone approaches me and they're very nervous, or obviously maybe don't see me as a person, I'm just like a guy from a band, I'm not as inclined to engage, But if I can kind of keep my cool and talk respectfully with someone, it's more successful. And so that's sort of my attitude that I took into working with Lou. And I was inside nervous as, yeah.
Do you think there's any side of Lou that you saw from the inside working with him that you think other people don't see? What's kind of the thing you think most people would be most surprised about him?
I don't know. He has this reputation of being a grumpy, mean guy, but he's one of the sweetest people I've ever met and one of the funniest people I've ever met. And one of the best friends I've ever had. And I don't mean in terms of closeness. I just mean if he was your friend, you knew it. You know, he treated you with respect, and he helped you, and he was faithful. And yeah, it was so strange to be his friend, because he was my hero all my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But I think he liked how much I loved his work. You know, it made him feel comfortable with me.
Okay, and getting back to the Barenaked Ladies, Stephen Page has talked quite a bit about the later years when he was in the band prior to him leaving, and he said it wasn't kind of too much fun, it sounds like, but kind of everyone was kind of working very professionally. How did that feel from the inside leading up to the time when Stephen left?
Well, I don't want to speak for Stephen. That's something.
Oh no, just for yourself.
Talk about, but I will say that a huge part of our shows is sort of a feeling of camaraderie and fun and making songs up, making each other laugh. And that was it started feeling like it was forced. And so it wasn't genuine, and that's no fun. That's not healthy, you know? So I kind of see it, it's like a relationship that just something needed to change. And, you know, it's really sad that it did. It was, you know, I know a lot of people miss Steve's presence in the band, but it wasn't going in a good direction. So something to give.
I mean, there's certainly a feeling of difference to the album which followed, All in Good Time. And I think it sounded, there was just something in the music which just sounded like it was kind of a bit freer, and it was kind of the right time to go in that direction. And, you know, hearing Stephen's first album, it sounds like it was kind of quite freeing for him as well. So it just sounded maybe like necessary.
I think so. And I think there was a feeling in the band that, oh, there's, you know, it was, you know, a relief, a sad relief. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And we had to reinvent ourselves a little. And as nerve-wracking as that was, it was also exciting and invigorating.
Yeah. And how did it feel going in for the first album out after that? Because the way that it was described by Ed is that it's like it felt like everyone had more space. He writes in the show notes, and I feel like you can hear that on the album. Did it feel like that for you?
It did, yeah. And I certainly was able to bring more songs to the table. And whereas songs I brought in before, like Celebrity or Sound of Your Voice or Adrift or, you know, there's a few others, but Steve or Ed might sing them. I was, you know, having the opportunity to sing them now, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you feel comfortable doing that? You know, obviously you'd had your solo work, but doing that as part of Barenaked Ladies, did that feel natural?
Yeah, I've been singing all my life. You know, I sang in the choir for years, and as you said, I'm not like a front guy, and I think that part, you know, I wasn't going to pretend to sort of be that type of person in the band, but I was grateful for the opportunity to sing my own songs.
It just feels like a wonderful intimacy to your songs. I think, like where you say you don't feel like you're a showman, like, or a front man, but it's like I think that you bring your own style to it.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, it's done with it's done with all the sincerity and feeling I can muster, but I don't think I can dance like Mick Jagger.
But like, there's some of the songs which you bring in, which are like you said, Sound of the Voice and Don't Shuffle Me Back, which just sound like they're from another era in a most wonderful way. I love those kind of tracks, and it feels like maybe that didn't have, like we said about space, as much space before in the band.
Sure, yeah, and yeah, I'm a big fan of the area of like the drifters and doo-wop music, and I think I had that in common with Lou. He really loved that type of music too. So, and the thing I loved about the Barenaked Ladies from the get-go was the singing and the harmonies. And so I think in my songs I always try to accommodate that element of the band as much as possible.
And yeah, I mentioned "Don't Shuffle Me Back" before. When I heard that on the album you did with the Persuasions, I actually thought that was one of theirs. Like that's how kind of like it fits into that kind of feel. How was it working with them? I mean, what legends?
Oh yeah, it was a great experience. That was a really lovely time making that record. We did it at Noble Street Studios here in Toronto. I'd met the Persuasions at the celebration for Lou's life. He was a fan, and he had taken them out on the road with him back in the 70s, I believe. So, yeah, I have a coaster from a gig at the Hammersmith Apollo with Lou Reed and the Persuasions. Someone gave it to me on our last tour over there in the UK. It's pretty cool. So, where was I? Sorry.
Working with the Persuasions on Ladies and Gentlemen.
Yeah. So upstairs at Noble Street, they had a table and we'd all eat dinner and lunch together. And they had so many great stories. And so it was a real learning experience to just hang with another band like that from sort of a different walk of life. And we did a few shows together in the States. And, you know, obviously in the States right now, there's a lot of unrest, and that was all just really starting to elevate. And I was really proud that we'd done a record with them, just from the point of view of, hey, here's two groups from different backgrounds, and we're making fun, beautiful music and going out and performing it together, just creating good energy. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, they seem to really just throw themselves into whatever songs you gave them, and it just there was something kind of different they found in each one.
Yeah, they obviously they brought an amazing amount of soul to those songs, and Dave Revels was the fellow who kind of did the vocal arrangements, and he would send me voice memos and say, I worked on this song, and I get really excited and play it. And it was always like, oh, that's so great. And he really capitalized on again, the opportunities for harmonies and group singing.
I just really love little ad-libs which they do on those classic records, which you seem to bring into there, like at the beginning where you're like, hey, look, it's the Persuasions, like you've just noticed them. I love stuff like that. It's just so much fun. Was that kind of your idea to bring into some of that?
Yeah, I did that, but then one of them just went right along with it, you know.
Yeah.
It was great. We were working with masters, you know, and I love the bassist's voice. What's his? I'm having a mind blank. I'm sorry, but I remember he asked if he could sing the third verse, which was when I'm feeling blue, I pick up a shoe, pretend it's a telephone, and that I'm talking to you. Jimmy Hayes, that's his name. So I was just ecstatic that he wanted to sing that verse, and that's might be my favorite moment on the whole record.
I know it sounds funny, but like a small thing going in, which just made me feel like, oh, we're in for something. It's like, yoga. Mind if we jam with you? And just the deepest voice goes, please, and just go straight into the song. It just sets you up for like a great feeling, I think, on the album.
Cool.
Yeah, a random project which you did along the way. You guys worked on Celebrity Apprentice.
Oh gosh, yeah. Where we met Donald Trump.
Yeah. How was that?
You know, if I'd known what I know now, I don't know how I would have handled it. But basically, we changed our schedule so we could do the show. They asked us to do the show, and we were one of the contestants hired us to play their fundraising event. so we were at the building and getting ready to perform, and Donald Trump walked in like he owned the building, and he probably did. And I remember he tugged my, oh no, first the director introduced us to Donald Trump and said, "This is the Barenaked Ladies. They changed their whole schedule so they could be here today." And he didn't say thank you. He just said, "Oh, well, this is going to be really good for you guys, isn't it?" And then he tugged my shirt and said, "Come on, let's do this." Like he just wanted to just do it. So that's about it. That's that. And I didn't really speak to him again after that.
I mean, did you get the feeling he just hired you because he heard the band name Barenaked Ladies and just tittered to himself, go, "Yeah, we'll go with them"?
He was, yeah, probably very disappointed to meet us, I suppose. we disappointed many old perverts.
And just one which happened to go on to be the president. That's
sure. All. Yeah.
Well, 2013, you did a duet like no other. I mentioned up top, Singing with the Spaceman, Chris Hadfield. I don't think that got mentioned enough of the time. They played a lot on TV over here, him singing from space, the David Bowie song. But a duet with someone literally in space, that's got to be a highlight to anyone's career, surely.
You know, just another amazing, weird thing along the way. That's Chris is such a nice guy, such a smart guy, and that was a cool experience. I just love that after the song, his guitar just floats away and his guitar pick, you know, he just kind of waves and his guitar pick goes floating off. And it's like, it's so cool.
How did that opportunity come about? Did he approach you? Did you guys get in touch? Or
he approached the band, yeah, and Ed and him wrote the song together.
And did you get a lot of chance to rehearse? It must be difficult with someone in space.
I didn't rehearse with Chris at all. I just learned the song, and the next thing I knew, I was looking at him up on the screen and playing. You know,
I mean, just the energy of it with both the bands, and then you've got the kind of Glee Club there. Just how did that feel in the room?
It seemed like a big deal. You know, it was done at the CBC. We were at the CBC building here in downtown Toronto. And they have some wonderful studios in that building. So it was all very professional and serious. And then it just happened, and we couldn't do anything but play it. And, you know, it went well. So I'm glad. Otherwise, you know, we'd have a mad guy up in space pissed off at us. And who wants to?
I don't know. I've only seen him in interviews and things, but I can't imagine that guy getting mad. He just seems so chilled.
I wouldn't mess with him.
he seems the most mellow person to have become an astronaut.
He's very mellow and very kind. He's always got time to talk with kids who are fascinated by space, and he's an amazing individual.
Yeah, and just a couple of years ago, you were inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. As someone who is so modest as yourself, do you allow yourself to kind of like feel how kind of like much of an achievement it is for yourself?
Yeah, sure. I allow myself to be proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and how was the ceremony? And getting back on stage with Steve with the band.
You know, it was cool to perform with Steve again and feel that familiar feeling, like, oh yeah, I got my arm back here. You know, it's like, yeah, it was cool. It was fun. You know, obviously, it's not something that we could do for a long time, but for that one occasion, I think we all deserve to celebrate that moment, and we all embraced that and had the mutual respect to leave other things aside for that time.
Yeah, just, I don't know, just like having that recognition. It's one thing to get recognition from your fans and from other people, but like it's literally your country recognizing what you've done.
Yeah, it was quite something, and being there, we really felt a lot of love from our peers, and it was a very special time. On the same show, I performed a tribute to my friend Gord Downey, with Sarah, who had passed away, with Sarah Harmer, and yeah, so that was emotionally taxing as well. And for every sound check and camera shoot that I did with the Barenaked Ladies that day, I also had to go back and do it for the Gord Downey tribute. And at the end, and so on the one hand, you have the thing with the Barenaked Ladies, and it's very celebratory, but also emotional because Steve's there. And then the tribute to my friend Gord, which was very emotional because he's not there. And I was just done by the end of the day, just done.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That would be a lot to take in.
Yeah, it was a lot. And it was, I'm going to use one of Gord's terms. We did a show the same day, the Barenaked, I did a set with Gord Downey. It was a fundraising event, and I did a set with Gord Downey, which was very serious. It was Songs from the Secret Path, which was a wonderful project. If you get a chance, check it out. And then I went on stage with Barenaked Ladies, and we did 1 week and $1 Million. And then I went back to the dressing room I was sharing with Gord, who had been watching it on the television monitor, and he said, "Well, that was quite a gear shift, wasn't it?" So I would use the same, it would apply to the Junos for me as well. It was a gear shift, but what a blessing to have both of those experiences in one night.
Yeah. And one thing you guys in the band have been working on during this time of lockdown to give us all some entertainment as well as raising some money for charity is the selfie cam jams, as I believe they should be pronounced.
Jam.
And just the production on those alone is amazing. So you've all, it seems recorded independently, but there's like multiple takes. I've seen people like working in a fashion and working apart, but to do all those different takes and then bring it all together, how do you produce such a thing?
We have a friend named Edward Pond, and he's been on the last few tours as a friend, but also he's a professional photographer and video director. And we're just really comfortable around him, and he knows how we work. And when the COVID pandemic sort of grounded us, he suggested, why don't we do something like this? And one person records the song to a click track, and the rest of us add our parts. And he puts them all together and edits the video and mixes them. So it's a team effort.
And from the recording point of view, just where you are recording in isolation, do you have kind of a backing track you're playing to yourself, or are you just going for your part?
Well, you know, I would have Ed's track on my laptop. I'm listening to it on headphones, and I've got my phone over here filming me playing my part. So you need two devices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It's just, as I said, they've just come out spectacular. I don't think I've seen any of the other things from other bands which are just so well produced, which sounds like a compliment to your friend there.
He's great. But another thing is we've been playing together for 30 years. So we know all these songs really well. We know our parts, and it's as odd as it sounds, we're able to remain tight in this sort of weird new loose format.
I think also your kind of willingness to experiment as a band plays into this as well, because there's a lot of bands who've been playing for so many years who've recorded kind of, as I say, recorded in isolation but recorded together, if you will. But they haven't done the multiple takes, the slow cam at different parts, different video effects and stuff. That seems very Barenaked Ladies to do.
Who's the late show host that's been doing versions of them as well? Just some amazing stuff. They did Yellow Submarine. They did White Wedding with Billy Idol. Do you know who I'm talking about?
It's not James Corden, is it? I mean, I haven't heard any of these.
But... not him. I'm having another.
Jimmy Kimmel.
No.
Jimmy Kimmel. Stephen Colbert. I'm trying to think of all the late night hosts.
I'm gonna look it up, but I'm sure if there's anyone out there, there's probably screaming at me like, it's this guy. But
there's a theoretical non-existent prize for anyone who gets it first in the chat. So please put up.
So,
but no, that's absolutely wonderful. So to get on to your latest album, so it's Common Sense, which you can look up all of Kev's music on kevinhearn.com, which is on your screen right now. And that's recorded as a soundtrack to a documentary, I understand.
Jimmy Fallon.
Fallon. I was so close with the other Jimmy. Chat group, I now don't have to make up a prize, which I'm not going to send you.
I get the prize.
Okay, right. Kevin, send me your address. I will find something to send you. It won't be worth anything, but okay. So as I say, Common Sense. That's recorded as a soundtrack to a documentary, I understand.
Well, they used a couple tracks in the documentary, There Are No Fake, but it's a standalone record, piano-based, mostly instrumental, a bit different for me. Was
there a particular reason why you wanted to go down that kind of like instrumental route?
Yeah, at the time I wasn't able to sing or talk, so I thought I'm going to make a record that I can just play piano on, and that's what I did.
And you recorded it as a trio, you and a couple other guys, I believe?
Yeah, Hugh Marsh on violin and an electronic violin, and Chris Gartner from the Look People and Thin Buckle on bass. And we went up north to my cabin and recorded it. And it was, based on piano melodies and chord structures that I'd written. But then we would sort of improvise. We'd come up with a skeletal structure and improvise them, and take it to the next step. We'd add things, and then I brought it back to the city, and Gavin Brown added drums to some of the tracks, and it's kind of a dreamy, dark, psychedelic record. I really like it.
Yeah, it's a really I mean, I don't know how many times I can use this in one interview, but it really feels like something different again.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of music, man. You can just it's endless. You can keep learning, you can keep exploring. It's quite an amazing thing.
Well, what I usually do on these interviews to wrap things up, just a bit of fun, is to ask some advice from my guests. So as someone who's had a lot of different challenges in your life and career, and you always seem to like, from what I kind of can glean, it seems like you take these as something to appreciate and to kind of incorporate into your story. What would you advise to all of us about kind of appreciating these moments in life, which might not seem like a gift at the time, shall we say?
Sure. Each moment and each challenge has a lesson within it, or it might have a great lyric in it. It's you might be experiencing something that if you can express it in a way that someone across the world can hear it, and it will resonate with them, and it may help them and provide them some joy. And that's a cool way that music connects us all.
That's a wonderful way of looking at it. And I thank you very much for your time tonight. Hopefully you've had a good time talking to us.
I enjoyed us. Who else is there? But thank you, Doug.
Well, it's me, but all those wonderful people in the chat.
Yeah,
I can actually bring one forward. Becky's just said how great it's been.
I didn't see all these.
This was definitely a fun hour. Really enjoyed all the stories, especially enjoyed seeing and hearing you, Kevin.
Marie's at so many of our shows. Oh, that's nice.
Linda, there's a lot of fun. I'm really sorry I haven't been able to bring on more messages, but I've been having such a good time talking to you. Sorry to be selfish, guys, but thank you all for joining us, and hopefully you've had a good night. Kev, if you can just hold on the line for just 1 minute. I'm just going to wrap this up, and then I'll say goodbye to you off mic. But thank you very much for viewing. I've been Dr. Squee. With me has been Kevin Hearn. And you've been listening to and watching the Doctor Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee, and that was my show. Good night.